For billions of years, the moon has waited in complete silence. No wind, no sound, no movement, only cold dust, endless craters, and the sharp shadows of ancient mountains. The moon has watched Earth from afar like a quiet guardian, never touched by life, never changed by civilization. But now, for the first time in human history, something is coming. Something powerful, something that could rewrite the future of humanity. Far below on Earth, a new race is rising, silent, strategic, and unbelievably ambitious. A nation is preparing for a leap so large that it could shift the balance of power in space forever, and that nation is China. The documentary opens wide, showing a dark lunar plain under countless stars. A gentle, tense soundtrack plays. The camera glides over the surface, passing deep craters that have slept untouched for billions of years. As the shot moves forward, dust begins to glow under the distant sunlight. The narrator speaks softly, almost whispering to the audience. For centuries, humans looked at the moon with curiosity. Now one country sees it as a destination and a home. The scene cuts to Earth. Bright lights flash across massive Chinese launch centers, engineers move quickly between control stations, and giant rockets sit ready on the launch pad. But still, something feels hidden, something unsaid. China has not loudly announced a lunar city. There are no official flags, no dramatic speeches. Instead, there are clues, small hints scattered in scientific papers, robotic missions, secret tests, and strange structures rising in remote desert areas. The narrator continues, guiding the audience deeper. Most people see the moon as empty rock. China sees it as the next frontier of civilization. A slow-motion clip shows the Chang lunar lander descending. Dust rises as its legs touch the ground. Moments later, a rover rolls onto the moon's surface, its wheels sinking in the powder. The rover scans the horizon. This is not a normal mission. This is scouting, mapping, preparing. The camera zooms out again, revealing the moon from orbit. A thin outline of blue Earth hangs in the background. The narrator explains that China has been working quietly for more than 2 decades. Their approach is not loud. It is careful, calculated, step by step. Their scientists study every detail. The soil, radiation levels, sunlight angles, water ice deposits, and seismic activity. And behind each mission lies a deeper goal that many people still do not understand. The narrator's tone becomes serious. China is building knowledge, but knowledge is only the first step. The real goal is construction. The next scene shows desert facilities inside China. Strange round structures, printed by giant 3D machines, stand in rows. Some are dome-shaped, some are long tunnels. Chinese researchers walk around them wearing protective suits. They test radiation shielding, lunar dust simulations, and closed-loop life support systems. Everything looks experimental early but full of purpose. The narrator explains, while the world focuses on rockets, China focuses on habitats. The documentary shifts back to the moon. The camera flies across the gray highlands, then down into a deep shadowed crater at the lunar South Pole, the largest source of frozen water ever discovered on the moon. The temperature here is colder than anything on Earth, yet this is the target. This is where the first lunar city may rise. The narrator adds, water is the key. Where there is water, there can be life, oxygen, fuel, survival. Cut to a bright scene showing warehouse-sized 3D printers designing walls using simulated lunar dust. Engineers test how to melt regolith with lasers to form strong blocks. Everything is quiet, efficient, and methodical, like pieces of a giant puzzle slowly falling into place. Then, video of robotic arms assembling modules appears. These robots are not building on Earth. They are prototypes for the moon. They can work in vacuum near absolute zero, and without human assistance. Each arm moves with perfect precision, building structures layer by layer. The narrator speaks slowly, letting the information sink in. China does not want to send a few astronauts for a short mission. China wants permanence. It wants a settlement, a base, and one day a city. Cinematic music rises. A wide shot shows Earth turning slowly in space. Lights glow across China. The narrator explains that the world has entered a new era, an era not just of exploration but of expansion. Humanity once built cities along rivers, then along seas, then across continents. Later, humans built stations in the sky. Now China aims to build the first human habitat on another world. And the narrator asks, why is China moving so fast? What does it know that others are ignoring? The scene cuts to a clean conference hall inside China. Professors and scientists gather around a holographic lunar map. Using AI, they simulate landing spots, radiation exposure, and pathways for underground tunnel systems. A model of a future lunar city appears, glowing domes, tall printed towers, connected modules, power plants, greenhouses, and underground bunkers. The narrator explains that China's plans stretch through the 2030, 2040s, and even further. Their goals include a robotic construction team, a permanent science station, nuclear power systems, a 3D printed habitat cluster, a resource mining hub, and finally, a living community. This is not fantasy. This is not science fiction. These are real engineering milestones published in scientific papers and confirmed through space missions. The narrator continues, one day when humans walk on the moon again, they may not step into a temporary base. They may step into a city. The scene returns to the moon's surface. The camera glides low over dark craters, revealing where the first modules might sit. A glowing outline appears, showing the shape of a small settlement. Then the view zooms inside, showing sleeping quarters, labs, greenhouses with artificial sunlight, water purifying systems, and command rooms with large digital maps. Inside these empty halls, the narrator whispers, "For now, no one lives here. But plans already exist. Designs are already made. Tests are already happening." Another cut shows China's most powerful rockets, Long March 9 concepts, experimental heavy lift boosters, and lunar landers that could carry both robots and humans. Engineers run simulations, adjust designs, and refine the technology piece by piece. Every step takes China closer to its goal. The narrator explains how this slow, careful strategy confuses the world. China does not always announce the full picture. Instead, it releases small details, tiny fragments of a much larger vision. But if someone collects those fragments and puts them together, the image becomes clear. China is preparing for the moon not as a destination, but as a domain. The music shifts to a deeper, more mysterious tone. The camera returns to the moon once more. The surface glows under distant sunlight. The narrator pauses before speaking. What happens when the first city beyond Earth rises? Who controls it? Who benefits from its resources? And who shapes the rules of an entire new world? The audience is left with a sense of awe and tension. Humanity is standing at the edge of a new age, and China is quietly placing the first building blocks. The narrator concludes part 1 with slow, cinematic pacing. The moon has waited for billions of years. Now, a new visitor is coming, not for a moment, but forever. The question is not whether China can build a city on the moon. The question is what happens when it does. The screen fades to black. Soft music echoes like a heartbeat in the void of space. A title appears. The moon floats in the night sky like a cold lantern, silent and unchanged. To most people on Earth, it is only a beautiful object, something to admire during calm nights, something poets write about, something children look at with wonder. But to China, the moon has become something far more important, something strategic, something valuable, something that could change the future of human civilization. The documentary opens with a slow glide over Beijing at night. The city glows with millions of lights, rivers of traffic, and towers stretching into the sky. Over this view, the narrator speaks. Every great nation in history has expanded to new frontiers. For China, the next frontier is not across oceans or continents. It is 384,000 kilometers above us. A map appears showing China's major science centers, aerospace universities, and launch facilities. The narrator explains that China's interest in the moon is not sudden. It is the result of long-term planning, decades of quiet calculation, research, and small steps that slowly build towards something much larger. The camera cuts to a wide shot of the moon's south pole. Long shadows stretch across deep craters. The sun barely touches the surface, creating pockets of darkness that have not seen sunlight for billions of years. These shadows hide one of the most valuable resources in the solar system, frozen water. The narrator continues, on Earth, water gives life. On the moon, water gives survival and power. The scene zooms inside a massive crater, the famous Shackleton crater. As the camera descends into its darkness, glowing outlines show maps of ice concentration. Scientists appear discussing a future where miners extract water ice, melt it, and split it into hydrogen and oxygen. These two gases are not only necessary for breathing, they are the foundation of rocket fuel. China knows this. China understands that water ice on the moon is like oil in the early industrial age. Whoever controls it gains a huge advantage. Narrator explains, a moon city built above ice could produce its own fuel. Rockets launching from the moon need far less energy than from Earth. This changes everything. A dramatic animation shows a spacecraft refueling at a lunar station before traveling to Mars. The narrator highlights how a moon-based fuel hub would give China enormous influence in future space travel. Instead of relying on Earth's heavy rockets, missions could start directly from the moon, lighter, faster, cheaper. The audience begins to understand China is not building a moon city just for exploration. It is building infrastructure for a future space economy. The scene shifts to laboratories inside China. Scientists analyze lunar samples under powerful microscopes. They measure helium-3, an element rare on Earth but abundant on the moon. Helium-3 is a potential fuel for future nuclear fusion reactors. If fusion becomes practical, helium-3 could power entire cities with almost no pollution and nearly unlimited energy. The narrator speaks carefully. Whoever accesses helium-3 on a large scale may control the energy of the future, and much of this resource lies quietly on the lunar surface. The next scene shows China's early robotic missions, Chang'e 1 through Chang'e 5, each representing a step in a long, calculated plan. The narrator breaks the pattern down. Chang'e 1 mapped the moon. Chang'e 2 created detailed landing models. Chang'e 3 and 4 delivered rovers to study soil and terrain. Chang'e 5 brought moon samples back to Earth. Each mission looks small, but together they form a ladder, one step closer to permanent settlement. The narrator adds, China sees the moon as the first stage of a future where humans live beyond Earth. But to reach that future, a nation must dare to build the first foundation. The scene shifts to a set of interviews, scientists discussing long-term human survival. One professor explains how Earth is vulnerable to many threats: asteroids, climate change, overpopulation, and future resource shortages. Humanity cannot remain a single-planet species forever. The narrator summarizes, Earth is our home, but it is not enough for 10 billion humans in the centuries to come. A second home is needed. China wants the moon to be that second home. The camera returns to the moon. Dust drifts in slow motion as a robotic rover climbs a small hill. In the background, Earth hangs like a jewel. The narrator's tone becomes thoughtful. A lunar city would not just be an engineering project. It would be a symbol of ambition, of courage, of the next chapter of human evolution. The narrator explains that China wants to be the first to create this symbol, the first to show the world that humans can build permanent life on another world, the first to prove that survival beyond Earth is possible. The next part of the documentary discusses China's strategic reasoning. As global politics shift and nations compete for influence, space becomes a new arena for leadership. China understands that whoever leads in space exploration will influence global partnerships, scientific collaboration, and technological dominance. The narrator adds, rockets are not only machines, they are statements. A massive Long March rocket launches into the sky. Flames illuminate the night. Cameras capture engineers celebrating inside mission control. This moment represents more than a launch. It represents a declaration China is entering a new era of space ambition. The narrator explains that China's government sees space not only as scientific exploration, but as an economic opportunity worth trillions of dollars. A lunar city could support industries like mining, energy production, satellite manufacturing, scientific research, tourism, deep space exploration. Animations show futuristic Chinese lunar transport vehicles moving across the moon. They deliver minerals to solar-powered processing units. Energy beams transmit power to orbiting stations. Scientists run experiments in low-gravity laboratories. Tourists visit transparent domes and walk along glowing pathways. This is not fantasy, it is the vision found in Chinese space research proposals. The narrator says, China is not preparing for the moon of today. China is preparing for the moon of 50 years from now. The scene shifts to international reactions. Politicians discuss partnerships, scientists debate plans, and space agencies analyze China's progress. Although some countries worry about China gaining early control of lunar resources, others believe that cooperation may lead to peaceful development. The narrator gives context. The moon has no borders. It belongs to no one. But one country can still take the first step to build a home there. Inside a Chinese desert facility, engineers walk along a giant mock lunar base. They simulate low-gravity operations. They practice assembling modular structures. They experiment with crops inside pressurized greenhouses. Everything feels intense, organized, and strategic. The narrator speaks slowly. These experiments reveal China's true motivation, a long-term human presence on the moon, a future independent of Earth's limitations. The final sequence of Part 2 grows more dramatic. The camera follows a Chinese scientist standing beside a large 3D printed dome. He looks at it carefully, touching the rough surface, imagining what it could become. His voice translated says, "We are not building for today, we are building for a world where humans walk on many planets." The narrator closes Part 2 with calm, powerful words. China wants water. China wants energy. China wants strategy. But above all, China wants a future where humanity rises beyond Earth, and it wants to lead that future. As the music builds, the screen fades to a view of the moon rising over Earth's horizon. The title appears slowly. The moon lies quiet, covered in soft gray dust, waiting beneath the cold sunlight. But the silence will not last forever. Far away on Earth, a plan is taking shape, one made of machines, robots, 3D printers, nuclear reactors, and bold engineering. China is preparing not just to visit the moon, but to build on it. This part of the documentary begins with a vast aerial shot of a Chinese launch site. Engineers stand beside a towering rocket. Robotic cranes move slowly around it. High above, the giant payload fairing glints in the morning sun. The narrator speaks calmly. To build a city on the moon, China needs more than dreams. It needs a method, a step-by-step path that turns imagination into structure. The camera cuts to a massive whiteboard filled with diagrams, lunar orbits, construction robots, solar farms, underground habitats. The narrator explains that China's lunar city plan is divided into phases. Each phase unlocks the next. None can fail because the moon is unforgiving. Every mistake is expensive. Every error could shatter decades of work. The story moves to Phase 1. Phase 1, robotic preparation. Before any human can live on the moon, robots must go first. Machines do not need air, water, or sleep. They can survive temperatures that would kill a person in seconds. They can work for months in darkness, and they are cheaper to send. A CGI sequence shows a fleet of Chinese robotic landers descending onto the lunar surface. Dust explodes outward as they touch down. Rovers roll out, scanning the ground with lasers. Small drones jump across the surface like insects, mapping craters and slopes. The narrator explains, the first goal is knowledge. Robots study where to build, what to mine, and how to survive. These machines collect data about soil strength, radiation levels, ice locations, sunlight hours, safe pathways for construction, dangerous slopes, and unstable ground. Every detail matters. The future city must be placed carefully, near water, ice, near sunlight, and on ground strong enough to hold structures. The narrator continues, these robots are the builders of the future. Like ants preparing a home before the queen arrives. Footage shows Chinese engineers controlling rovers during tests on Earth. They operate them in deserts, freezing chambers, and vacuum labs. Every movement must be perfect. Phase 2, landing heavy cargo. The next step is delivering giant equipment to the moon, 3D printers, power units, construction robots, drilling machines. A cinematic shot shows a heavy Chinese lunar lander descending from space. Its engines roar as it slows. Legs extend, touches the ground with precision. The narrator explains that future Chinese rockets, much larger than today's, will carry tens of tons of cargo at once. Inside the lander are large crates. Robotic arms unfold and begin assembling machines. These machines do not look like human construction tools. They look alien: long legs, rotating joints, flexible claws, solar wings, insulated bodies. The narrator says, these machines are designed for a world without atmosphere, without comfort, and without mercy. They set up power cables, they unfold solar arrays, they prepare landing pads for future deliveries. Every task is automated. Humans only monitor from Earth. Phase 3, lunar 3D printing, building with moon dust. This is the heart of the plan. The narrator explains that sending building materials from Earth is far too expensive, so China must use what is already there, lunar soil known as regolith. Regolith is everywhere, covering the moon like thick powder. It contains metals, minerals, and particles formed over billions of years. But it is sharp, abrasive, and toxic to breathe. Yet, it can become the strongest building material in the solar system if used correctly. A giant robotic 3D printer appears on the lunar surface. Its long mechanical arm moves slowly, melting the dust with concentrated lasers. Layer by layer, it prints a curved wall, a thick shell designed to block radiation and micrometeorites. The narrator explains, on the moon the first buildings will not be made by human hands. They will be printed by machines. The printed walls form domes, tunnels, and protective shields. Inside these structures, inflatable modules will be placed. These soft, flexible habitats will expand like bubbles inside the printed shells, creating sleeping spaces, labs, storage rooms, and greenhouses. A dramatic visualization shows how a small cluster of modules could grow into a larger settlement, each new structure printed using regolith and sealed from within. The narrator adds, the moon city will not rise overnight. It will grow slowly like coral in the deep ocean. Phase 4, powering the city. Lights in the darkness. The next problem is energy. A city cannot survive without power. It needs electricity for oxygen generation, heating, water purification, communications, and scientific equipment. But the moon experiences 14-day nights, complete darkness that freezes everything. The narrator explains, solar panels alone are not enough. China needs a stable, long-lasting power source. The screen displays a futuristic Chinese compact nuclear reactor. It glows with blue light surrounded by cooling fins and protective shielding. This reactor will be the beating heart of the lunar city. In daylight, solar farms will spread across the surface like metallic wings, gathering huge amounts of power. At night, the nuclear reactor will take over, keeping the base alive. Cinematic shots show technicians testing reactor models in secure labs. They simulate moonquakes, extreme cold, radiation bursts. The narrator explains, this power system must run for years without failure. There is no repair shop on the moon. Only what you bring and what you build. Phase 5, life support. Making the moon livable, a city must sustain life. But the moon is a deadly environment. No air, extreme cold, deadly radiation, toxic dust. Everything needed for survival must be created inside the base. The narrator lists the systems China is developing. Oxygen generators, water recycling units, hydroponic farms, pressure-controlled living modules, medical bays, artificial gravity, experiments. The documentary zooms inside a Chinese research greenhouse. Bright LED lights shine on trays of leafy plants growing in nutrient-rich water. Astronauts of the future will eat these plants on the moon. The narrator explains, food, water, and oxygen must come from the base itself. A lunar city that depends on Earth would never survive. Footage shows a scientist holding a small potato plant grown using simulated lunar soil. If crops can grow on the moon, long-term presence becomes possible. Phase 6, human arrival. The first residents once robots finish the core structure. Solar power is active, water is accessible, and life support systems are stable. Humans can finally arrive. The narrator describes it. The first Chinese astronauts will not visit the moon, they will move in. A spacecraft touches down. A group of astronauts step out wearing advanced lunar suits. They are not tourists. They are engineers, scientists, builders, and explorers. They begin inspecting the printed structures, activating systems, and living in the first habitat. Inside the base, lights turn on. Air fills the rooms. Plants grow under artificial sunlight. Computers hum softly. Humans have created a pocket of Earth on a dead world. Phase 7, expansion. A growing lunar settlement. The narrator explains that the first base will only host a few people, but China's long-term plan is to expand it into a multi-level settlement. Robots will keep printing new structures around the main core. Tunnels will connect habitats. Mining machines will extract metals. Greenhouses will multiply. The moon city will grow in phases. 5 people, 20 people, 50 people, and one day, more than 100 permanent residents. Cinematic animations show a large settlement glowing softly in the lunar night. It looks futuristic and peaceful. Domes, towers, solar farms, and launch pads. The narrator says, every expansion brings new challenges, but also new possibilities. Scientists could run experiments impossible on Earth. Engineers could build spacecraft directly on the moon. China could operate a communication network across the lunar surface. The settlement could even become a hub for missions to Mars. Phase 8, the lunar economy. A new frontier. A city must have purpose beyond survival. The narrator explains that China expects the moon to become a center for fuel production from ice, helium-3 mining, for future reactors, manufacturing, and low-gravity space tourism, scientific research, deep space launch operations. A bustling visual sequence shows lunar trains transporting materials, cranes assembling spacecraft, and tourists walking through transparent viewing domes. The narrator emphasizes, the moon city is not the end of China's plan. It is the beginning. Closing of Part 3. The documentary returns to the silent moon. The stars shine above. A faint glow spreads across the horizon as the sun rises. The narrator concludes with suspense. China's plan is clear. Robots build first, humans follow, and one day the moon will no longer be empty. The moon lies under a black sky, untouched and frozen. But now, imagine a soft glow spreading across a crater rim. Imagine curved structures rising from the dust, lights glowing from small windows, and a network of tunnels stretching beneath the surface. This is the vision of China's future lunar city, a place where humans might one day walk under artificial light, breathe recycled air, and sleep safely behind thick walls made from lunar soil. This part of the documentary begins with a slow flyover. The camera moves above the moon's south pole. Deep shadows give way to bright ridges touched by constant sunlight. The narrator explains, China's moon city will not look like the cities on Earth. It will be shaped by danger, by science, by survival. The camera slowly descends into a vast crater floor. A digital blueprint appears, glowing blue and white. It shows a cluster of domes, towers built from regolith, long tunnels, solar farms, and underground living areas. Everything is compact, efficient, protective. The narrator adds, every structure must defend against radiation, meteor strikes, and the vacuum of space. This forces architecture to evolve. The exterior, a city built from the moon itself. The documentary shows a large dome made from 3D printed lunar concrete. It looks heavy, thick, and strong, like a shelter carved from stone. Solar panels spread across the surface like black wings. Nearby, curved towers rise, also printed from moon dust, their shape slightly uneven, organic, almost alien. The narrator explains, the city's skin will be printed, not built. Its walls will be made from the moon's own soil. This protects residents from deadly radiation and extreme temperature. CGI animation shows layers of regolith being fused by lasers, forming strong blocks. A printed wall grows like a giant pottery piece. Once finished, soft inflatable modules slide inside these shells to create airtight living rooms. This combination, hard outer shell plus soft inner structure, becomes the style of China's lunar architecture. The entrance module, the gateway to life. The camera enters a small, pressurized room, the first chamber every astronaut sees when they step into the moon city. Helmets are removed here. Lunar dust is vacuumed from suits, and airlocks seal behind them. Screens glow on the walls showing weather data, oxygen levels, and activity maps. The narrator says, before entering the lunar city, humans must leave the moon behind. It feels like stepping from death into safety. This entrance area leads to the central hub, the heart of the settlement. The central hub, the city's core. The central hub is a large circular space with several branching tunnels. Soft white lights illuminate the curved walls. Pipes run along the ceiling. Screens show images of Earth, energy levels, water reserves, and mission schedules. The narrator explains, the central hub is the command center, the place where all life support systems connect. From here, astronauts can reach the sleeping quarters, the labs, the greenhouse, the mining sector, the power stations, emergency shelters. It feels like a mixture of a space station, a research lab, and a small home. Living quarters. Homes on an airless world. The documentary enters a narrow hallway lined with small doors. Inside each room there is a compact sleeping pod, soft lighting, and a small window showing Earth in the distance. The narrator says, life on the moon will be simple. No luxury, no decoration, only what is needed to stay healthy and focused. Astronauts sleep in temperature-controlled pods to reduce stress from the harsh environment. A soft hum from life support machines is always present. A tiny fold-out desk allows astronauts to write messages home. Even in this small place, Earth feels distant. A shot shows an astronaut lying in their pod, looking at Earth through a round window. The planet hangs silently, glowing blue against the black background. The narrator adds, every night residents will see the home they left behind. Every sunrise they will remember why they came. The greenhouse, life inside a dead world. This section becomes more emotional. The camera enters a glowing chamber filled with plants under bright LED lights. Leaves shine a deep green. Water bubbles inside tubes. Robots monitor plant growth. The narrator explains, the greenhouse is the city's heart of life. Here, humans grow food, recycle air, and touch something alive. Plants convert carbon dioxide into oxygen. They provide fresh food. They give astronauts a sense of normal life, something alive, something Earth-like. Row after row of crops grow in nutrient-rich trays. Potatoes, lettuce, beans, wheat, herbs. It feels like a small farm trapped inside a bubble of technology. A Chinese scientist appears in the footage, gently touching a leaf. Her voice is soft. These plants will help humans survive far from Earth. The narrator adds, here, the first lunar farmers may one day work, growing food for a settlement that grows with them. The laboratories, a new age of science. The documentary shifts to the science sector. Robots move samples across metal tables. Scientists in lightweight suits examine soil, ice, and radiation readings. The narrator explains, the moon city will not only be a home, it will be a laboratory for the future. Experiments will explore how humans adapt to low gravity, how materials behave in vacuum, how plants grow in lunar soil, how water ice can be mined, how to build structures during freezing lunar nights, how living organisms respond to long-term radiation. The lab looks sleek, metallic, and quiet, everything organized with absolute precision. This is not a place of chaos. It is a place of discovery. The power sector, light in the lunar night. The camera moves outside again. Night has fallen over the moon, long, deep darkness lasting 14 days. In this darkness, a glowing dome stands quietly, the nuclear power station. The narrator explains, to keep the city alive during the long lunar night, China will use a compact nuclear reactor. Slowly, animated graphics reveal how heat from the reactor transforms into electricity. Thick shielding protects residents. Cooling systems operate without atmosphere. Meanwhile, giant solar farms stretch along the crater rim. Sunlight floods them during the long lunar days. Robots clean dust from panels. The narrator adds, power is the city's pulse. Without it, the moon returns to silence. This simple sentence emphasizes the fragility of human life out here. The mining zone, The beginning of industry, the documentary shows large robotic miners digging at the edge of a shadowed crater. They scoop ice from deep within the darkness. They collect regolith and bring it to processing units. The narrator explains, water ice is the most important resource. It becomes drinking water, it becomes oxygen, and it becomes fuel. Machines melt the ice using heat from solar or nuclear energy. It becomes liquid water, then is split into hydrogen and oxygen. These gases are stored in metal tanks under the lunar surface. One day, rockets may refuel here before flying to Mars or deeper into the solar system. A large banner appears. The moon becomes a launch pad. This is one of China's main motivations, a lunar city that supports deep space missions. The viewing dome, a window to the universe. The narrator slows the tone. The documentary enters a beautiful transparent dome built on the crater's edge. Inside, astronauts float gently, looking at the stars through thick radiation-protected glass. Earth rises slowly above the horizon, glowing bright blue. The sun's rays bend around the moon's surface. The narrator says softly, "Here, humans will see space like never before. No atmosphere, no clouds, only the raw universe." This viewing dome will be used for relaxation, astronomy, monitoring the surface, filming documentaries, psychological comfort. Silence fills the scene. Only the soft hum of the life support system remains. The city at night. A dream in darkness. The documentary now shows the moon at night. The city glows softly, small lights shining from domes and tunnels. A faint fog from heat vents lifts into the vacuum. Solar panels sleep under the stars. The narrator explains, a city that glows in the darkness of an airless world. This will be one of the great images of human history. The structures look surreal, part machine, part alien sculpture, part living organism. Robots crawl across the surface, maintaining panels and walls. Everything is alive with motion, not natural but mechanical, and above it all, Earth shines. Closing of Part 4, the narrator concludes this chapter with calm, powerful words. This is China's vision, a living city on a dead world built by robots, powered by the sun, protected by regolith, filled with science, and connected to Earth by courage alone. The moon becomes human. The moon floats quietly in the eternal black sky, but something has changed. Lights glow softly across the surface. A city stands where there was once only dust, domes, tunnels, shining solar farms, and machines crawling like silver insects in the darkness. China has done it. The first city beyond Earth has been built. Humanity has taken its first real step into the universe. But what does this moment truly mean? The documentary opens with a wide shot of Earth rising over the moon. The narrator speaks in a deep, calm voice. If China succeeds, the story of our species will not be the same. A lunar city changes everything, our technology, our politics, our dreams. A soft, emotional score begins. The camera drifts slowly above the glowing settlement. Astronauts walk between domes. Robots hum softly as they carry containers of ice and regolith. The city looks small but alive, a place where survival is not guaranteed but hope is powerful. The narrator asks, what does a world with 2 human homes look like? This is where Part 5 begins, not with engineering but with the future. The first human generation to live off Earth. The narrator explains that once a city exists on the moon, it will attract new people. Scientists, engineers, doctors, technicians, researchers, students. A new generation will grow up dreaming not of airplanes and oceans, but of rockets and craters. We see a young astronaut inside the lunar greenhouse. He harvests lettuce while Earth shines through a window behind him. His face is calm and focused. The narrator says, these will be the first humans to build a life on another world. They will work, sleep, study, laugh, far from home. Children may one day study lunar science in classrooms under printed regolith roofs. Families may visit Earth only on special transport missions. The moon could become the first true off-world community. A slow pan shows small personal objects inside an astronaut's room, a photo of family, a small Chinese flag, a plant growing under artificial light. When a city grows, identity grows. When identity grows, a new culture begins. Human culture will start to shift from Earth-bound thinking to space-bound thinking. A new space economy emerges. The scene changes to a busy lunar industrial zone. Robots cut blocks from the regolith. Others haul them into processing chambers. Water ice is melted and separated into oxygen and hydrogen. Metal-rich soil is refined and shaped into new structural parts. The narrator explains, a lunar city makes space business possible. Fuel, metals, components, and oxygen can be produced on the moon, not carried from Earth. This changes space travel completely. Rockets become cheaper, long missions become easier, Mars becomes reachable, asteroid mining becomes realistic. A graphic shows a spacecraft refueling at the moon, then launching toward Mars with ease. With a lunar fuel station, China becomes the gateway of the solar system. This single statement rings with power. The narrator adds, if China controls the first space economy, it could control the future of space exploration. This is not political hype. It is simple logistics. Whoever builds first leads first. Global reactions, admiration, competition, cooperation. The documentary now shifts to international reaction shots, newsrooms, scientific conferences, space agency statements. The narrator speaks. A Chinese lunar city would shock the world. But shock does not always mean fear. It can mean inspiration. Some countries may feel challenged. Some may feel encouraged. Some may feel left behind. But many will want to join. The narrator explains, humanity does not rise by competing alone. It rises by building together. China may choose to open parts of the lunar city to other countries. Scientists from Europe, Asia, Africa, and the Americas may conduct experiments there. Joint missions may follow, perhaps even international lunar classrooms and medical centers. A scene shows astronauts from different nations greeting each other in a pressurized dome, sharing food harvested from the lunar greenhouse. The Moon City could become Earth's meeting place. This possibility creates hope. The scientific golden age, if a city survives on the Moon, a new flood of scientific discoveries will begin. The narrator describes the possibilities. Studying how the human body changes in low gravity, testing new medicines in radiation conditions, building telescopes on the dark far side of the Moon, exploring ancient volcanic tunnels, analyzing untouched lunar soil from billions of years ago, searching for rare elements, studying cosmic rays directly. Without Earth's atmosphere, the screen shows a massive lunar telescope, far larger than anything on Earth, scanning deep into the universe. The narrator says, the Moon gives science a freedom that Earth cannot. Humanity could see farther into space, detect new planets, understand black holes, and study the origins of the universe with unmatched clarity. A scientist in the film whispers, this is where we will rewrite physics. The shift in human psychology, the scene becomes quieter now. Earth shines in the distance, small but full of life. The narrator begins, when humans live on the Moon, our understanding of ourselves will change. People on the Moon will see Earth as a fragile sphere, one accident away from disaster, one crisis away from collapse. The overview effect felt by every astronaut who sees Earth from space will spread to 1,000 new residents. Humanity may begin to think differently about war, borders, climate change, cooperation, identity, survival. The narrator explains. A second home makes the first home precious. It may make humans more united, more aware, more responsible. The psychology of our species will shift from isolated nations to a shared civilization. The first step to Mars, if China can build a city on the Moon, then Mars is no longer impossible. It is the next step. The documentary cuts to a Chinese Mars habitat concept. Red dust storms rage across the desert landscape. A lunar-built rocket lands with supplies. The narrator explains, the Moon becomes a training ground, a preparation zone, a school for building on other worlds. Every lesson learned from the Moon City, every mistake, every success will be used to build the first city on Mars. The narrator adds, humanity may become multiplanetary, and it begins with a single lunar settlement. This simple line connects the entire documentary back to the first spark of ambition. A new chapter in human history. Now the tone becomes emotional, cinematic, hopeful. The Moon City glows under the sun. Cranes move slowly. Greenhouses shine with artificial light. Inside, astronauts laugh over a small shared meal grown from lunar crops. Outside, a rover carries a new module toward the outer ring of the settlement. The narrator speaks softly. For the first time, humans have changed another world. This moment is historic. This moment is symbolic. This moment is irreversible. Once humanity begins living on the Moon, it will never again be a species tied to a single planet. A montage shows future possibilities. Spaceports launching from the Moon, children visiting lunar museums, scientists discovering new cosmic mysteries, artists painting the black sky, astronauts celebrating Lunar New Year under a printed dome, research teams walking through tunnels made of moon dust. The narrator says, a Moon City is more than technology. It is a promise that our species has a future beyond Earth. The challenges still waiting. The film does not ignore the hardships. The narrator highlights that even if China succeeds, lunar life is dangerous. Equipment must never fail. Supply lines must be steady. Long-term health risks are unknown. Political tensions could rise. Accidents could happen. Expansion may be slow and costly. Survival will require careful planning. But then the narrator adds, every great achievement in human history began with great risk. This one is no different and will always test human courage. But humanity has always risen to challenges, crossing oceans, building cities in deserts, climbing mountains, exploring the poles. Now the frontier is space. Final closing of the series, the camera zooms far away. The tiny moon city shrinks until it becomes a glowing dot on a gray world. Earth rises behind it, shining with blue oceans and swirling clouds. The narrator concludes with powerful, poetic words: if China succeeds, the moon will no longer be a symbol of distance. It will be a symbol of possibility, a home made not of dreams but of dust, rock, and human ambition. Humanity will no longer belong to one world. It will belong to the universe. The music rises. The screen fades to black. A final line appears: the future begins on the moon.